So, Jimmy Haslam really thought he could bench Shedeur Sanders and just move on? Like the city wouldn't notice? Like the fans wouldn't snap? Like the universe wouldn't immediately clap back with the angriest football karma known to man? This wasn't just a bad coaching decision. This was a franchise-level catastrophe. A self-inflicted wound so deep, so spectacularly avoidable, that even other NFL owners are sitting in their skyboxes going, yikes, couldn't be me.
If you're fed up with the political games tearing Britain apart, now's the time to stand up. Subscribe now and join a growing community demanding truth, accountability, and leadership that actually listens. We break the stories the mainstream won't touch, and we do it for you. This is our country. Let's take it back together. Subscribe now.
Let's start at the core. Shedeur Sanders. Young, electric, poised, sharp as hell. Already more composed than half the veteran quarterbacks, getting paid double what he makes. He walked into Cleveland ready to change the game. And what did they do? Benched him. Held him back like he was some project to be molded instead of the obvious generational talent he already is. They called it development. They said he had to earn it, as if walking into one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the league and not immediately turning around. And leaving wasn't already a sign of loyalty. But the fans knew. We knew. The minute Shedeur stepped into that locker room, things felt different. There was an energy, a buzz. Like for once, Cleveland had something more than potential. It had a spark. And then Jimmy Haslam and Kevin Stefanski took a fire extinguisher to it, publicly, repeatedly, with the confidence of men who truly believe they know better, despite an entire football world telling them otherwise. And now, that karma has come swinging back like a wrecking ball to the walls of Berea. You've got fan protests outside the stadium. Hashtags trending mid-game that are less about football and more about resistance. The dog pound turning into a funeral procession. Local news anchors speaking in tones reserved for natural disasters and political scandals. And the media? Oh, they're feasting. Every talk show host in America is serving up the same question, night after night. Why is Shedeur Sanders not playing? It's not just a hot take anymore. It's the narrative, the defining headline of Cleveland's season. And for Jimmy Haslam, that question has become a curse. Because every game Shedeur sits is another indictment of the Browns' leadership, another nail in the coffin of their already crumbling credibility. Every pass attempt from whoever is under center becomes a metaphor for fear, for dysfunction, for the overwhelming scent of sabotage. And let's talk about the locker room, because that's where the storm really brews. You got younger players, rookies, second-year guys, watching this go down with disbelief. They see Shedeur balling out in practice. They know he's ready. They feel the momentum he brings. And then they watch the coaching staff put him in chains. You think that doesn't affect morale? You think that doesn't crack the foundation of trust? Because it does. It's happening right now. Veterans want wins. Rookies want purpose. Coaches want control. Ownership wants quiet. And Shedeur? Shedeur just wants to play football. But instead, he's become the eye of a storm he didn't even start. And that's the thing about karma. It doesn't just hit you when you're wrong. It hits you when you're arrogantly wrong. Haslam didn't just bench a player. He benched a movement. This wasn't some anonymous draft pick who needed time to adjust. This was Shedeur Sanders, the most headline-ready, NFL-prepared, brand-backed rookie quarterback in years. A guy with the poise of a 10-year vet and the work ethic of a walk-on. He had the stats, the film, the legacy, the name, the juice. And the Browns said, nah, let's stick with what we know. Which, if you're keeping score, is losing. And look, some people will say it's not all on Haslam. That Stefanski made the call. That the coaching staff just didn't think Shedeur was ready. But let's be clear, Jimmy Haslam sets the tone. He's the one who hires, who fires, who signs the checks. He's the captain of this ship, and right now, it's taking on water because he let ego, fear, and safe decision-making become the entire identity of a franchise begging for evolution. This team needed revolution. He gave them routine. They needed a new era. He gave them another rebuild. They needed Shedeur. He gave them someone else. And now, Now, it's not just the fans who are angry, it's the league. Other teams are circling like vultures, waiting for Cleveland to blow this completely, waiting for the Sanders camp to make the move, waiting for the Browns to blink. Because the longer Shedeur stays on that bench, the more likely it becomes that he leaves. Not in a trade, not in a tantrum, in silence, calculated, quiet, permanent. And when that day comes, and let's be real, it's not an if, it's a when, Cleveland won't just lose a player. They'll lose everything. The fans who stuck around to the Manziel disaster, through the Baker confusion, through the Deshaun Watson mess, they'll finally check out for good. The team culture will collapse. Ticket sales will tank. Sponsors will vanish. Because how do you sell a team that chose mediocrity over magic? How do you explain to your season ticket holders that you had one job, protect the future, and you fumbled it so hard, the NFL itself started sending wellness checks? The city of Cleveland has been begging for something to believe in, something to root for beyond fourth quarter collapses, and next year, promises. Shedeur was that belief. He was different. He is different. And now the clock's ticking. So Jimmy Haslam has two options. Swallow his pride, override his staff, and let Shedeur take over before the locker room fractures and the city revolts. Or stay the course, double down, and watch one of the greatest. What if stories in football history unfold without a happy ending? This isn't a football decision anymore. This is a test of leadership, of vision, of humility. Can the Browns recognize the moment? Can they pivot? Can they admit they made the wrong call before it cost them everything? Because karma already knocked on the door. And if they're not careful, it's about to burn the house down. So let me ask you this. If you were Shedeur, would you stay? If you were a Browns fan, do you still believe? And if you were Jimmy Haslam, how many warning signs would it take before you finally did something bold? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit subscribe and stay tuned. Because in Cleveland, the next play could decide everything. Because when a franchise benches its most marketable, most talented, most electrifying rookie quarterback, and then the entire football universe starts cracking at the seams, this isn't just a controversy. This is a reckoning. A full-blown karmic thunderstorm aimed squarely at the Cleveland Browns, with Jimmy Haslam holding the lightning rod. And the sky, it's already split wide open. You don't bench a player like Shedeur Sanders and expect the football gods to look the other way. You don't silence a star and think your team's going to just waltz through the season without consequence. That's not how this league works. That's not how life works. The moment Shedeur hit the bench, the universe responded the only way it knows how, with instant karma. And Cleveland? Oh, they're wearing it like a soaked jersey in December. Let's start with the team itself. Because this isn't just about fans burning jerseys and booing at home games. This is about a franchise that is visibly unraveling in real time. You've got players on both sides of the ball, barely hiding their frustration, side-eyeing coaches, clicking like on shady tweets, accidentally walking past reporters with just enough volume to say things like, you know who should be starting. You've got practice sessions that feel like hostage situations. A locker room that's splitting like a hairline fracture in an overworked helmet. On one side, you've got the vets, the guys who've been around long enough to know that speaking out too loudly gets you cut. On the other, the young guns, rallying behind Shedeur like he's the revolution incarnate. And he might be, because what Shedeur represents isn't just skill. It's hope. It's change. It's the kind of energy that could flip the Browns from perennial joke to actual contender. But instead of leaning into that, instead of taking the risk, embracing the unknown, and doing something different for once, they did what they always do. They played it safe, which in Cleveland is just a code word for losing on schedule. And let's not gloss over how obvious this karma really is. Ever since the benching, the Browns haven't just been bad, they've been unwatchable. The offense? Flat, predictable, running plays so vanilla, they might as well come with sprinkles. The defense? Gassed by the second half. Tired of carrying a team that can't move the chains. And the fans? Oh, they're done pretending. Season ticket holders are selling their seats. Bars are switching games off early. Even the local news, usually the last to jump ship, is throwing in the towel. And you know who's still there? Shedeur, still showing up, still putting in the work, still jogging onto that field in pregame warm-ups like he knows his time is coming. Because here's what people keep forgetting. Shedeur Sanders isn't asking for the job. He already earned it. He earned it the moment he turned down a comfy backup role in Baltimore, behind Lamar Freaky Jackson, just so he could build something real in Cleveland. He could have coasted, learned behind a two-time MVP, waited his turn. Instead, he chose a mess. He chose the pressure. He walked straight into the most tortured franchise in the league and said, "Let's go to work." And how did they reward him? By stapling him to the sideline and pretending the locker room wasn't about to implode. Let me be crystal clear here. This isn't just mismanagement. It's malpractice. You don't get Shedeur Sanders and play quarterback by committee. You don't hide him behind a depth chart. You don't put muzzle on a future superstar and pretend it's about culture. It's not about culture. It's about control. And Haslam? He's gripping it like a toddler holding the last juice box at a birthday party. He's terrified. Terrified that giving Shedeur the keys means losing the illusion of control. Terrified that letting a rookie take over means admitting the old way, his way, has failed. Newsflash, Jimmy, it already has. The fans know it. The players know it. And worst of all, the league knows it. You think teams like the Jets or Dolphins or Raiders haven't noticed the chaos. You think they wouldn't give up a vault of draft picks just to prize Shedeur away and let him shine under their spotlight? You think Shedeur's team isn't already fielding back-channel offers, mapping out escape routes, and planning his next chapter? Because if Cleveland doesn't make a move and fast, that chapter won't be written in orange and brown. It'll be written in someone else's colors, with someone else's coaching staff, with someone else's championship ring. And Cleveland? They'll be right back where they started. Searching, flailing, drafting, rebuilding, telling the same story to a new audience. We almost had it. The story of this season, this moment, isn't just about benching a quarterback. It's about the difference between fear and faith. The Browns chose fear. They looked at Shedeur Sanders and saw a risk. Another team, a smarter team, will look at him and see a legacy. Because here's the truth. You don't get to keep the future just because it walked through your doors. You have to deserve it. And Cleveland, right now, they're doing everything in their power to prove they don't. So what's left? Not much. The fans are exhausted. The media's fed up. The players are divided. And Shedeur? He's waiting, watching, calculating. Because when his moment comes, when that call finally comes and when the coaches can't justify sitting him anymore, when the front office finally caves, he's going to do exactly what we've all been waiting for. He's going to take that field under the weight of the city's shattered hope, and he's going to ball. He'll slice the fences. He'll electrify the crowd. He'll remind everyone what Cleveland could have been all along. And if the Browns still can't figure it out, if they let that talent walk, if they trade him away, or worse, let him rot until he demands his exit, then the karma that's hit them so far, that was just a preview. Because the second Shedeur shines in another city, it won't just be a loss. It'll be an exodus. A moment Cleveland never lives down. The moment the Browns benched the future and watched it walk away. So what do you think? Should Shedeur be starting right now? Has Cleveland already burned the bridge? And if you were him, would you even want to stay? Drop your take in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay close. Because karma moves fast. And Cleveland? Well, they just got hit. Jimmy Haslam and the Browns, the way they mishandled Shedeur Sanders, is quickly becoming one of the most bizarre, self-destructive, and public implosions in recent sports memory. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback anymore. He's a litmus test, a mirror, and what that mirror is reflecting back at the Browns organization. It's not pretty. Let's talk about the why. Because people keep asking, why would you bench a guy like Shedeur? And you know what the answer really boils down to? Insecurity. Not from Shedeur, not from the locker room, but from up top. Because giving Shedeur the reins means surrendering the illusion of control. It means acknowledging that the star walked in with his own gravitational pull, and instead of resisting it, you should have built around it. But the Browns aren't good at that. They're not good at letting go of old ideas. They're not good at admitting when they're wrong. and they are terrible at recognizing when something special has landed in their lap. So they did what insecure people always do when faced with someone brighter, bolder, and louder. They tried to dim the light. They dressed it up as waiting his turn. They called it part of the process. They said things like protecting his development. But let's be real, those are just fancy ways of saying, we're not ready to give him the keys because we're afraid of what it means if he drives better than us. And now, the price for that fear is mounting by the hour. The locker room is boiling. The media has turned. And the fans? Oh, the fans are making it loud and clear. They've had enough. Every day Shedeur doesn't start, the temperature rises. Every second he's standing on the sideline, it's like someone adding one more tick to the time bomb. The chants have changed. They used to be about excitement. Now they're about accountability. Start Shedeur is no longer a plea. It's a demand. And don't think for a second this is just an emotional overreaction. No, this is strategic fury. Fans have receipts now. They have the stats. They've seen the practice footage, the preseason clips, the leaked locker room whispers. They know Shedeur is ready. So when Jimmy Haslam and Stefanski keep trotting out guys with a 63.5 QB rating and post-game quotes like, we just have to execute better, it doesn't just feel wrong, it feels insulting. Because here's the reality no one in that front office wants to say out loud. They're scared Shedeur is going to prove them wrong. They're scared he'll take that field and immediately do what everyone already knows he can do. Command an offense, extend plays, hit tight windows, move the pocket, energize the crowd, win the damn game. And when that happens, they'll have to face the truth. They stalled greatness. They slowed momentum. They cost this team weeks, maybe the entire season, because their egos were louder than their instincts. And when Shedeur finally gets a shot and delivers, the fans won't cheer. They'll celebrate, but they'll also remember. They'll remember who held him back, who wasted those games, who almost let a generational opportunity slip through their hands like it was nothing. And speaking of memory, let's talk legacy, because the Haslams have owned the Browns for over a decade. And in that time, they've cycled through coaches, quarterbacks, systems, and slogans like at a rotating dinner menu. And now, after years of mediocrity, they've been gifted something real. Shedeur isn't a gamble. He's not a fluke. He's a movement, a lightning rod, a walking opportunity to rewrite the entire story of this franchise. And what are they doing with it? Dragging their feet while the future looks for the exit. Because if they think Shedeur is just going to sit back and wait forever, they clearly haven't been paying attention. He already turned down the Ravens, remember? He walked away from a backup role behind a two-time MVP because he believed in himself enough to bet on something bigger. And that belief doesn't go away. It doesn't fade. It gets louder. Shedeur doesn't have to rage on the mic. He doesn't need to tweet through it. His silence? That's strategy. He knows he doesn't have to say a word because the football will do the talking when they finally let him play. And if Cleveland can't figure that out, if they miss the moment, then they'll be the team that tried to silence the spark. And the moment Shedeur lands somewhere else, somewhere with a competent front office, an aggressive mindset, and a fan base ready to rally behind a real one, it's over. Every touchdown he throws will be a reminder of what Cleveland could have had. Every win will echo through First Energy Stadium like a ghost. Every time he shines under someone else's lights, it'll burn just a little deeper into franchise's already bruised legacy. So what happens now? What can happen? The Browns have two choices. Option one, admit they screwed up, let Shedeur take over, rebuild the offense around him, empower the locker room again, salvage the season, the fan base, and their dignity, if it's not already too late. Option two, keep playing it safe. Keep treating Shedeur like a backup. Watch the team unravel, the fans revolt, and the media maul them for the rest of the year. And when he eventually asks out, when he finally walks away and signs with a smarter, braver, hungrier franchise, well, then you become the cautionary tale. You become the team that had it all and let it rot on the sideline. You become the team that benched its best chance at glory because it didn't know how to lead. And Cleveland, you've worn that label before. You've carried it for years. But this time This time you had the power to change the narrative. And unless you act right now, in the face of all the pressure, all the backlash, all the noise, you're going to lose that chance for good. And you'll deserve every ounce of that karma that's coming your way. So what's it going to be? Bury the future? Or finally wake up and let it take the field? Make the call, because Shedeur is ready. The fans are ready. And time? Well, time's about to run out. About benching Shedeur Sanders anymore. This is about what it says. It says the Browns would rather lose safe than win brave. It says they fear a spotlight they didn't control. It says they'd rather cling to power than unlock potential. And Shedeur? He sees it. He's too smart not to. He didn't grow up in the shadows. He was raised on prime time, under the brightest lights, with the loudest critics and the highest expectations. He knows what it means to be doubted. He knows what it looks like when people pretend they're protecting you when really, they're just terrified of what you might become if you were free. And that's the part the Browns have missed entirely. They think they're teaching him patience. They think this is some noble development arc. But all they're doing is showing him how small their vision really is. Shedeur Sanders didn't come to Cleveland to warm a bench. He came to change the story. And every second he sits, the old story writes itself again. Another quarterback lost in the churn. Another generational talent wasted. Another chapter in a long, painful saga of what could have been. But here's the plot twist. The story doesn't end in Cleveland unless Shedeur lets it. And if they keep dragging this out, if Jimmy Haslam and Kevin Stefanski keep trying to tame a star, then he's going to do what stars do when they're boxed in. Explode. Not in anger, not in drama, but in impact. In the inevitable moment where he ends up elsewhere, walks onto that field, and shows the world exactly what Cleveland threw away. He's not the next guy. He's the guy. And when that realization finally hits this franchise, it'll be too late. Because karma doesn't wait. Not for fear. Not for pride. And definitely not for organizations that can't get out of their own way. So let's make it plain. If you're in that front office, if you're Jimmy Haslam, you've got one move left. Play him. Not because the fans are screaming. Not because the media's circling, but because if you don't, you're not just losing a quarterback. You're losing the soul of your franchise. So the clock is ticking. The world is watching. And Shedeur, he's waiting, but not for long.